Hello there, everybody, for the another episode of Semi-Professional Talks. This is another one of our 6-part series for Semi-Professional Magazine, where we'll be bringing you the latest conversations, the latest debates about all things non-league. Same usual suspects in the booth. A booth? Would you call it a booth?
Studio. Makes us sound more professional, even though we don't know what we're doing.
So with me is Zach Wright on my left, Josh Brewer, Dan Platts. And
hello,
looking forward to going straight back into it. How are we, lads? Are we all okay?
Yeah. Oh, I'm absolutely buzzing.
Delighted to be back.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, it's a great feeling being in here, isn't it?
Anyway, shall we crack on?
Let's go.
Our first segment that we're going to be talking about is our Out of the Hat section. This is where we on the podcast and our team members have thought of issues and conversations that we want to be having. It's for us as well to vent what we think, but also about what the fans think as well. So the first topic we're going to go for is, are mixed support stands, so mixed supporter stands, a safe environment? Are they a good thing or are they a bad thing?
That is a very good
question.
Now,
for the listeners, I haven't told the boys in the studio what we're actually doing, so this is live reaction. Live reaction.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first?
Who's starting? I want to see where you sit with this, boys.
Well, I think in certain situations, like, I mean, especially at non-league level, it's never normally as like partisan, is it really? It's never going to be flares thrown at each other or something.
Yeah.
It's like the Belgrade derby. I don't know if you have watched like a bunch of amateurs, what Dorking do.
Yeah.
I saw when they were playing Altrincham, I think, a couple of weeks back. And then like one of the Alty
fans, did he spit at him or something?
I think he spat at the cameraman. Like, I know that's not obviously fan on fan, but it still shows like obviously
you can get riled up in
all the like the negatives that we hear from like big other like Millwall and all that West Ham.
Thing is, in my mind, I don't believe that non-league games can ever get that heated. I just feel like, I mean it can, and we know about ultras and we know about all of that, but I don't see you don't see non-league games getting to a scrap, do you?
No.
I don't know. Plus, it's definitely possible.
Yeah, it's possible, but...
Plus, I'd say at the moment as well, quite a lot of non-league fans, when I think of a non-league fan, I either think of like a young like lad or lass that's going to one of the local teams, because it's a lot cheaper than it is, and the parents might be taking them, like parents and families, or like the older generation who have been supporting them like all their lives, and they still go when they're like 60s and stuff like that. So I don't think you'd find that many people who are honestly looking for a scrap in a non-league game.
There's like a couple derbies down
there.
Yeah,
exactly.
Obviously, Wrexham were in there with Chester for years. That's got bite to it.
It depends on the situation. It's like I don't think you can physically say we'll have mixed stands all season.
Yeah, no. But then rugby do it.
Rugby's a different sport.
Yes, I know that, but it works. The system works with having mixed
different
fans.
And you'd imagine it's more of a brutal sport. Yes. Well, it is a brutal sport. Like it's a lot more physical than football is anyway.
Rugby's just for people that can't play football anyway. That's literally what happened. When people play rugby, they're starting school. They're 3 or 4 years old, right? And their mum or dad's throwing them a football, and they miss the ball, and then they start playing rugby.
So how does that equate to then on your logic? Meaning that in football fans they have to sit.
I don't know.
Sit at opposite ends
from each other.
It's just because it's just ingrained.
It's just ingrained. It's like you're meant to hate
opposing fans.
It's quite hard to like build an atmosphere if you've got the other team's fans.
And to be fair,
they're not going to join in with your chants.
I don't like sitting in like mixed stands anyway. Nothing to do with like hating the other fans. I just prefer to sit all your fans together.
You make a good point, because an away day typically is, it's celebrated with your own fans, isn't it? So
you want to be chanting the same as what your fans are chanting.
This is true.
It's better for atmosphere.
So overall, then, boys, are we coming to a decision that it is a good thing or it is a bad thing? I'm not sure. I'm still a bit.
I think like the word, is it safe?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Most
is
occasions.
Is it? Yeah, is it safe on maybe like 90% of the time? Safe, yeah. But like, is it? Do I really want to be part of it? Yeah. Not particularly.
But then the only thing I'm thinking as well, if you were going to have mixed supporter stands, then would you require more stewards as well? You're going to require more stewards, aren't you?
Infrastructure's got to be big.
Club's got to pay someone to do it.
Club's got to pay someone to do it, and we're talking about non-league clubs here, aren't we?
Yeah.
It's just not very. Yeah.
But then I guess
it wouldn't be very practical.
They sort of like in like lower down non-league. It's not like mixed stands, is it? But like each set of fans like change.
You make a good point. They segregate themselves automatically, don't they? You get the away fans standing at one end and then the home ends at the other.
Because like we said, like realistically, if you have a choice if you want to stand, and it's nothing like personal, but it's like if you had a choice to stand next to someone that supports your team compared to someone that doesn't support your team, you're always going to say, you're always going to stand with the person that supports your team.
Unless you're a wind-up merchant.
No,
we're not looking for any of those.
No one's like that, are
looking
they?
for a scrap Brewer, number one target.
Yeah, if Brewer was there, he'd be like...
I'm very... believe it or not, I am very placid at football. Very placid.
I don't believe it.
Honestly, you ask anyone that goes to football with me, I barely say a word.
Anyway, lads, let's get on to the next section. I went out and interviewed the chairman for the Corinthian-Casuals. He goes by the name of Brian Adamson. And we'll be going over what we think about his answers and how that impacts him and, his non-league journey. So I'll just play you this now. Firstly, how did you become the Corinthians chairman?
Well, I've been at the club for over 25 years, and I was first brought to Corinthian-Casuals as a reserve team manager. Then a few years later on, I got promoted to the first team manager's job, and then I was asked to go on their executive committee because they are a members club. So I accepted a position on the executive panel. Then after that, things moved on a little bit where I was then asked to be a vice chairman. And then in January, there was a change at the top of the club. And then I was asked to become the chairman. So from January. So I've done most of the roles at the club. So it was a natural progression, I suppose, in many people's eyes.
So from that, we get that Brian Adamson has... Well, I feel like it's the same in a lot in non-league clubs. We get people who have been part of the club for, as you said, 25 years or so. Does it make it easier or harder for members of the community to become part of a non-league football club? Because I feel like if you're there for 25 years, you end up with this energy where it's older people who have been in the club for a long, long time.
Struggle to move past.
So it's harder for young people to maybe get involved. But then on the flip side of that, flip coin of it, is that, what a legacy or a commitment he has shown to that club.
You can see the loyalty behind it as well. And when you talk about the locals trying to get involved possibly as well, surely they must have some respect for a guy who's been there for that long. Like, you wouldn't just want them to move on, would you?
I think loyalty should always be rewarded anyway. So, and I think that's actually his story is a great one because it will give people inspiration, younger people inspiration to get involved in a football club if they know that there's a pathway for them to become higher up in that football club.
Yeah.
To be honest, a lot of non-league clubs, there's not a long queue of people queuing up to try and do things for them. Like, that's a great story, and like you said, like, loyalty should always be rewarded. And I think it's great that someone that's been involved in the football club for so long is running it because he understands it clearly, very much so, and it makes the club safer because a lot of business football clubs can be run by people that obviously don't have the football club's best interest at heart.
For sure.
So it also protects the club against sort of mismanagement. I mean, there's seen of loads of clubs. Go onto our website to look at club profiles of many clubs that have been bought by sort of egotistical maniacs and sort of driven them into the ground. And I think, like any club that sort of has fans at the top, sort of at boardroom level, they might not always have like on pitch wild success because of obviously financial. There isn't a massive financial sort of bottomless pit of money, but they'll always be a stable, sort of sustainable, good for the community. All things that we've sort of been trying to push on our website anyway.
I think you make a very good point. I think that I would much rather my team have someone at the front of it who's a fan, Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't want someone with loads of money just to come in and say, right, we're doing this and that.
Yeah.
It happens so often as well.
Yeah, for
Because
sure.
they don't treat it as a business, do they?
No.
Especially in the lower
Yeah,
leagues.
for sure.
It's like, remember that madman at Billericay or what? I can't remember.
Glenn Tamplin,
who was just like literally a crook.
Tried to chuck everything out, make something stick. But
and he bought like Romford as well after he ran out of Billericay. But it's like,
as a fan of that team, you must be looking around going, what on earth?
The thing is, like with that though, is like, I mean, do you remember when Notts County were bought by Munro Finance and they had like Sven Goran Eriksson and Sol Campbell, and it was all just done by a fraudster? Well, when you've got like Kasper Schmeichel being like paraded around Meadow Lane and that, you do get caught up in it. And it happens all the time. It's like, you know deep down that this guy is, I mean, it's just built on a pack of lies, but you can't help but get caught up with it. And that's the problem with football, though, isn't it? It's probably Billericay fans knew that this guy was a bit of a crook, but when they're seeing like Paul Konchesky and Jamie O'Hara getting paraded about the ground, they're thinking this is
not to get excited.
But then they get then obviously he leaves, or I don't even know, like he leaves.
And they have to deal with the aftermath and not him.
Yeah, and then they've left him, then obviously the money goes, and that very club's existence overnight is pretty much put into question because these people are on contracts and things like that, but there's no money. So it's quite, like I said, like they might not always have the on-pitch success because of no bottomless cash, but it'll be sustainable, good for the community, and it makes that the club will be there for many years to come, which is one key success of a non-league club anyway. I'll
play a continuation of the interview now. I am under the understanding that the club has struggled in the last couple of years in terms of position in the league and things like that. Can you give us an indication of what that's been like?
Yeah, what happened, we had a very successful manager that came in, and he was with us for about 7 years and got us one promotion from the Ishbian Div 1 into the Ishbian Premier League. He was there for 7 years and was very successful. Obviously, James then decided to stand down, felt that he'd taken the club as far as he could. So then obviously we had to find a successor for him. Those last 4 appointments have been not good for the club. The people that came in didn't know the club, didn't know its ethos of the club, didn't know the club's values, thought that they could just, on the Corinthian-Casuals name, attract players without having to work for getting players into the club. So obviously that's what has made it really difficult. And over the last 6 months, well, we've gone through 4 managers, and all the things behind the scenes wasn't right at the club. And I'm a great believer that if you don't get the base correct at the top end, it's not going to be right, and then that doesn't transfer out onto your football field. We have now, since January, got the top end of the club working properly. We've got in the new chairman, new treasurer, new secretary, new committee. We've got all the people back into the club that are good people that had wandered off. We've attracted them back. We now have the off-field side of the club absolutely spot on, and now we are being able to concentrate on the playing side, and we're interviewing at the moment for next season's manager, and we honestly believe that we will be able to get that right as well this time. We're not looking, and we're not going to try and put people under pressure and say they have to get us up in the first year. We want it to be a 2 or 3 year programme, and we will just want to see progress, and progress slowly. So when we get back up, we're an established team and ready to go back up.
4 managers in 6 months, boys.
That's wild, isn't it?
That's
wow,
crazy.
That's a Watford start, isn't it?
He makes a very good point, though, in the middle of that. He says that he recognises that it has to come top down at the club.
Yeah.
And I don't know whether that's significantly more important when we talk about non-league, or whether it's because, you know, we can use the example of the Glazers at Man United, right? I believe that they're too far gone at the top to ever reach the fan base at the bottom. Whereas he is an understanding that it has to come bottom up, I think.
Obviously, the manager that was on about before, he stayed with them 7 years. it obviously sounds like quite successful and quite obviously loyal. I mean, it's always a catch-22 at these levels. If you get a good manager, it's like, how long can we keep hold of him before someone higher up kind of pinches him?
It's a tough transit, I think we see.
I think it's possibly even worse at that level as well.
Yeah.
Do you reckon?
The manager's probably got strong relationships with everybody at that club. Glazers, right, whatever, but there's probably 150 people below the Glazers in terms of like 150 different levels.
For sure.
That level, you've got like the chairman, the secretary,
the manager,
the managers,
players,
coaching staff,
and then it's
the volunteers,
the
and then the fans. If you've not got the chairman right, and you've not got a manager right, that's the two. Obviously, they're very important in any club, but it's like it's all relative.
Even
like
more
it's
so.
magnified how important it is. And like I said, once they get the manager right, it's so important because, like we said, there's so many less people involved in those sorts of clubs compared to bigger clubs.
I'll keep going just so we'll get through to the end of this
Absolutely
interview.
loving
You mentioned earlier there, and I think you made a very good point, the Corinthian-Casuals have such a name behind them. And, the club's history is incredibly rich, and obviously being popular further afield in the likes of Brazil. Does this make your approach to gaining traction or finding supporters or, as you say, a manager or members of the behind-the-scenes team, does it make it very different to a normal club? Do you believe it makes it different or harder or potentially even easier because of the reputation that the club has?
I think I can answer that in two ways. One, we're an amateur club, so we're competing in a semi-professional league. So we have no players budget for players. So we're asking players still to play for the love of the game, and we're asking them to pay for expenses, minimum expenses. So you might get train travel to and fro the ground, and at the end of the week it could have worked out to £20, £30, £40, whatever. That's what they're getting as an amateur, just their expenses, nothing else. So we're playing in the semi-pro league, so that immediately makes the job much harder than anybody else's job in the league. Secondly, going on to attracting managers, that doesn't seem to have a problem, because I laugh when I say this, because we've just done the applications, we've just taken in, we've had about 25 applications for the job, but on top of that I've probably had 25 applications, all in Portuguese, from managers in Brazil wanting to come over and manage Corinthian-Casuals. And what other club in the UK advertising for managers would get that amount of Brazilians applying for your job? Unbelievable.
I mean, that's just incredible, really, isn't it, to think of a semi-professional club.
Bit of context for you. He's got 25 English managers wanting to take over this position. And on top of that, he's got 25, if not more, Portuguese-speaking Brazilians coming in, and he goes on in the interview a bit. They ask at the bottom of it, how much am I getting paid? Where will I live? And I think that's really, the legacy that the Corinthian-Casuals have. This is, we're talking about a club in London that not many English folk have heard about, and yet in Brazil.
They used to be absolutely massive. I mean, I've just done a little bit of research here, and the crowds that they used to generate. I mean, this is in the early. This is all in the 1920s. All these crowds, but they played Brighton, 45,000 fans there. Newcastle United, 56,000 fans there. West Brom, 50,000 fans in attendance to a Corinthians match.
And now they're going through 4 managers in 6 months.
Yeah.
Finding it hard to find someone to fill the job. What we're seeing here, lads, is the harsh reality of English football.
I mean, this is a stat. They have the Man United's worst defeat ever was against this team. 11-3. They beat Manchester United.
Well, aren't they the reason Real Madrid wear white, supposedly?
Yeah.
And
supposedly,
obviously Corinthians in Brazil.
It's just absolutely incredible, isn't it?
The history behind that club is just...
Yeah, it's massive.
It is mental.
But I think it's a sign that the fact that they're still an amateur, committed to being an amateur team, is pretty incredible. Because even at that level, it's like if you've got a chance of getting paid, I don't know, a few £100 a week compared to not getting anything but expenses, the fact that they're still playing, they're still trying to compete, and obviously it's not gone well for them this season, but it's like the fact that they're still committed to amateur football, even though they know deep down that they won't be able to advance. And it's like Queen's Park did that in Scotland, but they were amateur for 100 years, but then they had a meeting with the board and decided they were going to become not amateur anymore. So they've like sacrificed their core values for on-pitch success, and it's pretty cool. The Corinthian-Casuals won't sacrifice core values for on-pitch success no matter what, and they're still making it work. Hopefully, better next season.
To be commended, really. Isn't it?
I mean, I wonder actually if there's been any offers from like other like business owners or maybe even Portuguese-speaking millionaires or whatever to actually take charge.
It's certainly attractive.
It'd be demanded.
Exactly right. Yeah.
Because I mean, like we say, they made football big in Brazil at the time in like the 1882, I think, that was made. So it's just absolutely incredible what they've achieved in the past, and it is actually just a massive shame to see where they are now, really, at amateur level. And
I'll just get through the rest of this interview, boys. I'm under the understanding that you've got a fairly exciting project coming up. I believe you've got a 3G pitch under planning permission, is that right?
We have an application in for a 3G pitch. If I can explain to you, we have over 40 youth teams and a ladies team. And of course our first team, we've got a walking football team. We cover all aspects of football at the Corinthian-Casuals. Now, those teams, including our first team, every team has to hire winter training facilities. We spend in the region of $50,000 a year on winter training throughout the club. So what would happen if we get the 3G down? All that money that the youth team, the walking football, the ladies team, the first team are actually spending on training facilities would actually come into the main club. So we'd have an income immediately of 50,000. Then we got the hires and everything else we can do on that pitch to schools and everything. And then it's got the potential easily of bringing in £100,000 a year. And that would set this club up. I mean, they say the life of the pitch is 10 years and you have to put 10% away of your income every year to replace the carpet in 10 years. But that would guarantee us those incomes for the next 10 years and set us up forever, if you like. So, yeah, it's very important.
So he's just mentioning there the importance of the money aspect that goes into non-league football, 50k a year every winter for the protection of, for the hiring of other pitches for the 40 sides you mentioned there that are part of the Corinthian-Casuals setup. I believe that goes under the radar, how much money is actually needed to support these clubs, because you forget about what their intake is. You've got young people wanting to play through the youth academies, and then women's football now, more so than it ever has been. Walking football, he mentioned. I feel like that definitely goes under the radar when we're talking about non-league football.
And I guess it helps with, obviously, money, but then like we're talking about like postponements and that, there's a lot more chance of, apart from if it like got frozen or whatever, but there's a lot more chance of a plastic pitch getting games on.
Yeah.
Now whether it's the greatest spectacle in the world, watching football on a plastic pitch, but from a practical point of view, it does maintain more chance of games going on. Because you see like stories of like teams having to play, in non-league having to play like a game every game
13 games in like 22 days or something.
Yeah,
ridiculous like that.
Daft, yeah.
I know. Yeah, but to be fair, Liverpool had to play like 4 games in 50 days, so it's quite
half 12 kickoffs.
Yeah, half 12 kickoffs. That 2.5 hours, it really,
makes all the difference, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'd like to give a huge thank you to Brian Adamson for coming on and speaking to us. Thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Brian.
Legend.
Offered some great insight into what they're doing at Corinthian-Casuals, and
that's such a
was such a gentleman to speak to. So
can only wish
him
well.
all the best. All the best. Moving on to our next section, we asked last week for the fans to give us a question to answer. The best ever non-league player. This can be someone who has moved up through the football pyramid. It can be someone that's in there now. I'm going to start off. I don't believe he's the best non-league football player ever. But shout out to Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Who has just got himself promotion again
to the Premier League
with Leicester.
I just can't support him. He just winds me up.
Proper
I watched it last night. Well, I watched the highlights because obviously Bayern and Madrid were on. And I was just like, you are such a so-and-so. I just can't get. You'd love him on your team, wouldn't you? But oh my, it's like Alfredo Morelos or whatever. It's like you would love him on your team, but like when you're playing against him, you just.
Yeah, being from Sheffield anyway, and being a Wednesday fan, it's rumoured every single year to come to Sheffield. Even when he was winning the Golden Boot in 2019 in the Prem, and when Leicester won the league, they were all, Jamie Vardy should come back to Wednesday.
He's never
end of his career.
Leicester,
end of his career should come back to us. And it's like, no, I think he'll go at the end of the season because he's not going to play Premier League, is he?
So I'm going to have to disagree with you. I think he's the sort of character that will die to get back on a Premier League.
He will, yeah.
Yeah, but he probably doesn't even get into Leicester's best team anymore anyway.
No, you're right.
On big money as well.
But so he started off. He was in Wednesday's academy. And he got released quite late on as well. Obviously, it's harder for players to pick up a team afterwards when they get released at the age of 16 onwards, really. So it's got to be tough for him. He went round numerous non-league outfits, and Halifax's Stocksbridge Park Steels, I think they're the biggest two. And then Fleetwood Town, when they were in non-league, they were the team really that caught everyone's eye when he was playing for them, I'd say.
That's where he hit the highlights, I think.
Got them into the Football League, didn't he? So
he did.
Yep.
He's got a bit of a legacy at every club he's played for, really.
And he got quite a bit of money for him, didn't he?
Yeah.
So.
Well, $1 million, I think, wasn't it? And then probably bonuses, whatever.
As I say, I don't think he's the best non-league player to come out of all time, but
I have a shout for the best, and I honestly think
it's going to be a bias. It's going to be such a biased.
No,
one,
it's not. It's not.
isn't it?
It'd be struggle to actually argue with this, really. Ian Wright.
Where did he start?
Well, he was in prison at 19. He got arrested at 19 and went to jail. So like he was gone. Like football was probably out of the picture for him. And he got rejected by Southend and Brighton after trials, and then Greenwich Borough.
There you go.
He was at Greenwich Borough until he was 22. And you think 22 now, he's actually
so late.
It's late. It is late. But back then, when we're talking about the early 90s, or like the early 90s, or the late 80s even. Like it is, like it's not that late, is it? Because you have players back then playing until they are 40.
There's that viral video of him and his old PE teacher.
Yeah.
I thought you was dead. That's such a funny meme.
I'm with you, Platt. I thought you were going to bring out someone a bit rogue, but
no.
Yeah, but we're talking about best players in non-league ever, or like best players
who have actually stayed in non-league and played.
Because there's only one striker from Gateshead who back-to-back promotions. One with Gateshead, one with Notts County. Record-breaking season. 42 goals in one season.
He's off season.
He's all right.
He's not Ian Wright.
Past 3 seasons, top scorer in the National League North, top scorer in the National League. Now this season, top scorer in League 2. Macaulay Langstaff is probably one of the best.
And he got released by
got released by Middlesbrough. And he got released by York as well. God, they must be fizzing.
You would be absolutely.
Because he played for.
They would be.
Because he's like 27 now. He played for Stockton Town, which is like the 8th tier or something. When he was like 19, then he went to. I think he was at Blythe for a bit.
Yeah.
Then York, got released from York. Gateshead, then to Notts, and now probably
soon to be Swansea.
Probably to Championship now.
He's only been heard about for like 2 years,
2-3 years. Yeah, like I said,
he's been cooking.
42 goals,
cooking
no
in the
penalties as well.
Yeah, no penalties in the National League.
Any goal's a goal, and
unlike certain strikers that play for Welsh teams, they might.
Don't be
just
shy.
salty. They're now in League One, aren't they? I've heard.
He has to dive and score penalties, but not our striker, so it's okay.
Yeah, thing is, he'll rip up League One as well. Paul Mullen, I think, will rip up.
Paul Mullen's washed.
Well, he's not. Another good non-league record.
Yeah, he's a great one. Some honourable shouts as well. Most of them are really strikers that you think about. And Les Ferdinand, he's on that. Kevin Phillips, I mean, he won a European Golden Boot.
Kevin Phillips got sacked by Hartlepool the other day.
Golden Boot. Yeah, and he grew his hair back somehow, didn't he?
I wonder why he got sacked.
A European Golden Boot. That can't go
for
without
Sunderland
saying.
as well. For
Sunderland, yeah. Absolutely.
That's such a great old school Barclay striker.
Unheard of now, isn't it?
This doesn't even surprise me, actually, because this is probably where he got all his just reckless tackles from. Vinnie Jones.
Yeah.
It just makes sense, doesn't it?
I still think it's mad that he's like a big actor.
Yeah.
Now.
Yeah, he's a bit.
He's in The Gentleman.
He's in The Gentleman.
He's
a good character.
He's a good character, yeah.
Mikel Antonio,
Player.
he was in there. I mean, he's still playing the Premier League. Jared Bowen. I mean, Jared Bowen started off in non-league. Like, he's
Hereford.
absolutely incredible.
Hereford,
Joe Hart.
yeah.
Joe Hart. He was England's number 1 for years.
Chris Smalling, another shout.
Chris
he started
Smalling,
in
yeah.
non-league.
Did he?
Yeah,
He
for
did.
Maidstone.
See, this is why the pyramid's so good, man.
Yeah, I mean, you get some absolute gems that come out of it, don't you? So
You know, you can stick your B teams where the sun don't shine. Get them on loan to non-league, and they'll
yeah,
be.
he's the
world
best.
beaters.
Do you know if a player isn't playing though, even if it is a Premier League club, the best place to go and get game time, especially if you're a really young player, must be non-league.
For sure.
To get used to that physical
Yeah.
men's game of football.
If you can play the non-league game well,
On
you
those
can play
pitches,
at
like
any
we've
level.
talked
You
about
can play
as
at
well.
any level.
Yeah, you need to be playing men's football.
Yeah, forget the raw talent that you have. If you haven't played proper men's football, where you are gonna get snapped.
Yes.
I think Dele Alli talked about that on Monday Night Football. He was like, because obviously he went to MK Dons. Well,
Yeah,
he
started
started
at
MK
Yeah.
Dons, and he said that he was seeing these people at Everton who maybe like 21, 22, and they've never played men's football ever, and they want like they're used to like these pristine, training grounds, pitches,
yeah.
no fans, but they're like 21, 22.
And then eventually, when they make their way down,
Yeah.
they're not even the best players, even though
No.
even though technically they probably are well above. But
Yeah.
you see so many go to non-league and fail as well.
People that go out on loan, it's such a valuable
For
experience.
sure. So in answer to the question then, boys, who is the best non-league to come out of or to still be in? We have got shouts at Macaulay Langstaff
Macaulay Langstaff.
and
Ian Wright.
I think is our. Zach, you're quiet.
Yeah, well, yeah, it depends what route you want to go. If it is the best player to have ever even touched down
Touched
in
non-league,
non-league,
so,
it's
yeah.
got
It has
to
to
be
be, yeah,
probably
yeah.
got to be Ian Wright, Stuart Pearce, honourable
Ooh,
And
mention.
Pearce, that is a great shout.
Psycho.
Who's England captain?
Who did
weren't he?
Stuart Pearce
So-
play for?
Weldstone.
Did he?
He was a carpenter playing for Weldstone,
Broke his leg at
Sounds
half
like-
time once and carried on playing, apparently. That's what my dad always tells me.
something like that.
Absolute hard.
Probably.
Man.
Did he?
Yeah, that's what my dad tells me.
I'm not sure about that one.
That's probably
Man. Your dad might be telling
Probably.
porkies there, but you never know.
Anyway, that's all we've got time for on this episode of
Semi-pro talks.
Semi-Pro Talks.
There
That
we
is
go.
it.
Good bad
I'm
presenter.
I'm bugging.
The presenter.
Semi-Pro Talks. We'll be back in the next episode with more interviews, hopefully. More out the hat, more debates, a lot more.
More absolute waffle.
We want more
More-
comments as well. We want more questions.
We do.
Definitely.
That's Semi-Pro Talks out.
Nice one.
Peace and love.